Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. My name is Joe. Today I'm going to be doing a playthrough slash review of the game Atlantic Wolves. This was a game published a couple years ago by Canvas Temple Publishing. It is a solitaire game, as you can see, based on the World War II naval campaign. That would be the Battle of the Atlantic, kind of the end of the U-boat menace. So it runs from August of 1942 through the May of 1943, so not quite a year, about 9 months, I guess. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 months. 10 total months, so 10 turns, basically. It is an extremely difficult game to win, playing as you are the German side. The Allies' technological advantage will increase over time, and that will make it more and more difficult for the U-boats to successfully sink Allied shipping. And if you don't manage to do well, you are going to lose the game. So the reason I decided to do this game was, I obviously have had it on my shelf of unplayed games for a little bit now, but fairly recently, John Compton of Canvas Temple announced that they were basically going to stop producing games, which was, disappointing. Like a lot of people, I subscribed to their newsletter, and I was bummed out to hear that they were going to do it. That came right on the heels of as they were publishing their Boer War game, which I think is still being delivered out to Kickstarter backers. But supply chain issues and everything, post-pandemic world kind of thing, I think were the reasons that Mr. Compton gave for deciding to shutter the business for now. Maybe, hopefully not forever, but at least for now. So kind of in honor of Canvas Temple and some of their games, I thought I would do this video. So Atlantic Wolves is based on the game The Battle of the Atlantic by Gary Graber. So this is basically an adaptation by Gary Graber of his game, which was like a print and play, or it came in a book form, as many of his games do through Minden Games. But this is done obviously for Canvas Temple. And Canvas Temple, one of the things I will miss most about them is they have really good, chunky, quality components. If I move the box here so you can see the whole map. So here you can see the entirety of the map. This is a map board, nice and solid. It's a board, not not paper. The components are all nice. This is a counter. It's a 1-inch counter. It is nice and thick. It is good quality stuff. It also comes with a deck of 40 cards. Cards are also very nice. I wouldn't say the game is particularly card driven. There are events and things on the cards, but a lot of the game is done via dice roll and based on decisions that the player makes as part of the game. Comes with 2 dice. They're clear dice, which I think is kind of cool. So let's get into the gameplay itself, and then at the end I'll kind of wrap it up and give my thoughts on the game, kind of like a review, playthrough, first look, all in one kind of thing here, as opposed to doing a series. So I fairly recently played the game Atlantic Chase from GMT, 2nd edition. If you watched those videos, I really enjoyed that game. This is a much less complex game. It is designed specifically for solitaire. Obviously, Atlantic Chase does have some solitaire stuff in it. This covers basically only, I shouldn't say only, but basically, this is very much about the U-boat campaign. There is a raider counter. You can get a raider, but this is after the Bismarck was sunk, after the Graf Spee was sunk, etc., etc. And the German raiders, essentially those that were remaining, were basically bottled up in port and didn't really venture out to try and impact the the convoys going to Britain. So it's in the vein of, of a kind of a submarine game. You're playing the role of Admiral Donitz, who was in charge of the submarine arm. Admiral Raider, our good old friend from Atlantic Chase, he is in this game as well, possibly making an appearance. And so basically the game is pretty simple. We have our sequence of play here on the board with a couple pieces missing, but we do have strategic phase, the event phase, allotment and placement phase, then our attack and anti-submarine warfare phase, the Allied technological advantage phase. That's a key component of the game, is the state of Allied technology as it continues to progress during the war, making things more and more difficult for the U-boats to remain undetected and therefore dangerous. As that goes up, the chances of the U-boats doing well goes down. U-boat production phase, obviously the Germans continued to build U-boats throughout the war. And then a convoy bonus placement phase. So basically one of the triggers for a victory for the Allies is if 4 convoys end up in this box. There's only 1 convoy box on the map. As you can see, the map is divided into areas. Pretty straightforward. Iceland, North Atlantic, Bay of Biscay, African coast, Eastern Seaboard, Mid-Atlantic, Newfoundland. That's it. Right? Then you have your ATA index that's marked by counters like this one. They run 1 through 6. And at the bottom it says Order A. So the order means the order of operations for when you're doing your allotment and placement phase. And it determines who gets to go when. So at the beginning, the Germans get to go first. Once you get into B, then escorts, there are two types of Allied threats. You have escorts and air patrols. The escorts will go, then the U-boats, then the air patrols. Get to Order C, it becomes escorts, air patrol, U-boats last. And that can be important because you can sink, if you go first, when you're in Order A, when U-boats go first, they get to sink Allied shipping and mark that on the tally sheet, which is here. Right? So you have your months, you'll write down your tonnage and ships sunk, how many U-boats you had operational, how many U-boats had sunk. If you ever lose more than half your U-boats in a turn, or if you lose half or more, I should say, you automatically lose. To win, you have to sink, 600,000 tons for 3 consecutive turns and average 400,000 for the entire game. If there are no convoy markers on the board at the end, or 450,000 tons plus if there's 1 convoy, or 500,000 if there are 2 or more convoy markers at the end of the game. So you want to survive till May of 43, and you want to have a decent amount of Allied shipping sunk to have any chance of winning this game. Okay, so let's get into the game itself. So the strategic phase, we get to place the Admiral Donitz counter here in headquarters or here in the subpens. So it's a decision, okay? And it impacts the game in 2 ways, right? HQ, you get to produce an extra sub. And in the subpens, you get to work basically against the index going up. So essentially, if Donitz is in the HQ box, the Kriegsmarine emphasis is on strategic concepts and planning. In game terms, this means that the production of more U-boats will be the priority. If Donitz is in the subpen box, the Kriegsmarine emphasis is on tactical concepts, especially concerning outwitting Allied technological and tactical advantage. In game terms, if Donitz is in the subpen box, the ATA index will not advance as quickly. Okay, so we're going to stick them in here in the HQ box because I want to build up my submarine force. So now we draw a card. Okay, so here's our card. Now there are various sections on the card, as you can see. You can ignore the number, that's just the number of the card. There are 40 total. So the top section is the ATA, the Allied Technological Advancement result. That's anti-submarine warfare. This is an event. Okay. This is U-boat production. And then down here we have the escort placement in the top row and the air patrol placement in the bottom row. The only area we're really worried about is the event area, which is this one. So if it's a red event, you can they can only be played in certain situations. This is obviously not a red event. It's also not a good event from the German standpoint. It is a North Atlantic convoy. So we place a convoy marker in the area where it belongs. Now let me grab a convoy marker from here and put it in this box. If they get 4 in that box, game over. Allotment placement phase. Okay, so we are in order A because we are at 0 right now. So we do escort allotment and placement, air patrol allotment and placement, and U-boat, condor, and raider placement. So they get placed earlier so we know where they are. And the way we do that is we draw a card. And the top row is the escorts. So we get 1 in the Bay of Biscay. So 1. We get 1 in the eastern seaboard. We get 1 in Iceland. We get 2 in the mid-Atlantic. 1 in the North Atlantic. And 2 in Newfoundland. So they got somebody in every single spot. Now we do a second card for the bottom row, which is Air Patrol. Holy mackerel. Okay, so we get 2 in the Bay of Biscay. We get 5 in Iceland. We get 7 in the North Atlantic. That is a lot, man. That's a 5 and a 2. And 4 in Newfoundland. So we'll put 2 2s there. All right. We can discard that. And that is our allotment and placement phase. Now we go to the attack. Oh, wait. I got to place my U-boats out. Okay, so here we have 6 U-boats to start with. And these boxes, I have to move my condors first. So this condor goes to the Bay of Biscay. And they automatically go to the shadow one because you're always going to roll with a -2 DRM. And this condor will go to Iceland. Basically, this guy's from Norway and this guy's from France. Right? So now we place our U-boats. And you have the option to place them in various boxes. And they give you a die roll modifier. As you can see, you've got aggressive and shadow, etc. So basically, you can put 1 in aggressive without getting a penalty. So I'm going to do 1 and 1 here because I really want to see if we can do something about this convoy here. We'll put 1 here in aggressive. We'll put 1 here and 1 normal here. And we'll put 1 here on the African coast because they don't have, that's the only area that doesn't have anybody. So now everything is placed, and now we go on to the attack and anti-submarine phase. Attacks, signifying U-boat attacks against Allied shipping and anti-submarine warfare against the U-boats, are now resolved. The order that attacks and ASW are resolved depends on the current index, the ATA index. It's 0 currently. Basically, based on how many U-boats you have in an area, that'll sink more tonnage, right? So what we want to do is we roll 1 counter for each U-boat, condor, and or raider. We don't have any raiders right now. So we're going to roll 1 die. Right? So let's start up here with our condor. So we know he's going to get a -2. Rolls a 4, so that's a 2. So now we look here in our German attack table. And up here, we're in Iceland, so that's this side. And a 2 is 7,500 tons, 1 ship. Okay, so we'll write that on our sheet here that we sunk 7,500. Now we'll move on to do, so that's the condor. And I'm going to leave them here for now. Now we'll roll again. This time we'll do let's save this one for last. Let's do the Bay of Biscay. And we rolled a 5 that time. So again, we look at our sheet. Oh, I didn't mention we have 2 with the 2 asterisks. It says scatter occurs if German attacking German is in aggressive or normal. They were not. That's why I didn't do anything with that. So we have a 5, and again, -2 for our Condor gives us 3. That's 15,002 ships. Okay, now we'll do our African coast. 6, and we got a +2 here. That's an 8. Okay, we're in African coast. 90,015 ships. Eastern seaboard. So we have 2 rolls here. One will have no modifier, and one will have a +2. I'm just gonna, well, no, we'll roll them separately so we know which one's which. So a 1 + 2 is a 3, and a 3 we know from before is 15,002 ships. Now we'll roll the normal, and we get a 1, and a 1 is always nothing. So nothing. All right, so now we'll come up here and we'll do the Mid-Atlantic where we have a +2. We get a 2. 4 has 1 asterisk. Scatter occurs if attacking German is in aggressive square. Okay, so what does scatter mean? We'll talk about that in a second, but we know 4 is 30,005 ships. So the way the scatter works, and here's the counter for it. So the way scatter works is it actually lets it, it benefits your normal and shadow attacks. But in this case, we don't have one, so it didn't have any impact. So what we ended up with for August of 42 is 157,500 tons sunk and 25 ships sunk. Now it's the Allies' turn. So it works pretty much the same way. It's resolved one area at a time. So we don't have to worry about up here because there are no U-boats. Okay, we don't have to worry about here because there are no U-boats. And we'll go here. So we have escort 2. So if you have more than 1 in the aggressive box, they get a +1 DRM. So it's down here. Die roll modifiers +1 for every U-boat beyond the first in area's aggressive square. +1 for every 3 U-boats in the normal square. We've only got 1 in each, so we're safe. So we roll and we get a 2. So a 2 is nothing. Okay, so this, nothing happens here. Now we'll do Mid-Atlantic. We'll roll. I'm going to roll them both. We don't have any modifiers here either. So we get a 1 and a 6. We know the 1 is nothing. A 6 says hit. Okay, then you roll on the hit table. And we got a 1. 1 U-boat driven back to sub-pen's box. So we take our U-boat and we put it back in the sub-pen. Okay? Better than being sunk, and they're all going to end up back there after this turn anyway. So that's not a big deal. Actually, that's the wrong guy. It's this guy that goes back. Okay? We have the North Atlantic, which I didn't do for the U-boats. Now, I will say that in the rule book, it kind of does it all at the same time. Like the Germans will go, then you'll do the escort. I've been doing like all the Germans and then all the escorts. I did not do the North Atlantic, though. I forgot about the North Atlantic. So I need to do that. So we're going to roll here. So we have 1 aggressive. He rolls a 3, which gets modified to a 5. And a 5 is 45,007 ships sunk. So I need to adjust my tonnage here because we got a 45 and a 7 added. So it's going to be 32 ships and about 202,500 to be exact instead, which is better. And now we'll roll the normal. And he gets a 2, and that's probably not going to be much. Scatter occurs, but, oh, yeah, but it's too late to do anything. So we got a scatter here, but it doesn't really have any impact. But with his 2, that adds another 7,500. So that's going to be 210,033 ships. 210 and 33, and then now we'll have to do the ally attacks here. Okay, so we're done on this side. Nothing here. We have our escort and patrol here, but there are no U-boats. Condors cannot be attacked. Okay, so in effect, this guy can just go back here, and this guy can just go back there. Okay, so the only thing we have to worry about is up here. All right, so we're going to roll our escort. And he gets a 5. So 5 is nothing. And he doesn't get any modifier here. Now we'll roll the 2 patrols first since they're together. And we get a 1 and a 6. So the 1 we know is nothing. The 6 is a possible hit, or a hit rather. And it's a 4. And a 4 in the hit table is 1 U-boat in aggressive or normal square is sunk. So we're going to take the normal and we'll have him be sunk. Okay, so we lost 1. We got 1 sunk so far. Now we have 5 more patrols to roll. We'll do them 2 at a time. 2 and a 1 is nothing. 2 more. 2 5s, also nothing. 1 left. 6. All right. And a 2. And a 2 is 1 U-boat in the aggressive square is sunk. So we lost 2. So we lost 2 U-boats, and we have 4 operational. Okay, so now we've done that, we go to the Allied Technological Advantage phase, and it's blank. So up here we would see something, and it would be, since it's blank, we don't get anything. So that's actually a break, which was nice to see. I was expecting to see something there. So now we go to U-boat production phase. So we draw a card, and we check the U-boat section, and we get 2. So that's a good one too. So we get 2, plus we get 1 more because of donuts. So we're actually getting 3 U-boats this turn. So 3 U-boats this turn. And they're going to go in there as well. Okay, convoy bonus placement phase. So on the back here, we have an ace creation attempt too, which is not on the sequence of play here, but is mentioned in the rule book right after U-boat production. So basically, you roll a die to see if you get an ace. An ace adds 1 to a die roll, basically when attacking. So we're going to roll 1 die. We'll roll 1 die, and then we get a +1 per 100,000 tonnage sunk by this turn. We sunk 200,000. 210 actually, so we get a +2 on our die roll, and we need a 7 or more to create an ace. So basically we need a 5 or a 6. And we get a 1, so no ace. All right, disappointing. Now we go to convoy bonus placement phase, and here we go here. So in 43 you get a +2 DRM, otherwise there's no DRM. The PC, you have to roll, I think you have to roll twice for PC or something. Oh, it's based on how many subs are in the North Atlantic. So we're just going to roll 1 die, and we got a 2, which is nothing. So that would be the end of the first turn, and now you do cleanup, and everybody kind of leaves and goes off the board. So I put all my escorts off. So I'm gonna pause here, clean up, and then we'll be back. One thing I didn't mention is this convoy has a 1 escort automatically, so there would have been another escort to roll, but since they sunk both subs here anyway, doesn't matter. But that's something to keep in mind for the future. So we go on to turn 2. So we're now in September of 42. We make the same decision on donuts. Do we want them in the HQ and add a sub, or do we want them in the sub pens to mitigate the Allied technological advantage? So I think for now we'll leave him here. Again, I'll move my condors just because I know I'm going to. We'll do our event. So we pull this. Happy hunting North Atlantic, +2 to 1 U-boat roll in North Atlantic this turn. So I'm going to hold on to this card. And I'll put it here so I remember that it goes with the North Atlantic. Hopefully, because I'm bad at remembering stuff like that. Allotment and placement phase. Okay, so we draw for escorts. So they get 1 in Bay of Biscay. They get 1 in Iceland. They get 1 in the Mid-Atlantic. They get 3 in the North Atlantic and 2 in Newfoundland. Okay. Then we draw another card. 2 patrols in the Bay of Biscay. 1 Eastern Seaboard. 3 in Iceland. None in the Mid-Atlantic. 9 in the North Atlantic. That's insane. And 5 in Newfoundland. Okay, now we pick where we want to send our 7 submarines here. So we'll send 1 here, 1 here. We'll put 1 here. We'll do 1 here and 1 here. And as you can see, I'm trying to avoid the heavy stuff here. Go 1 there. And we'll go 1 here. All right. So there's just too much in the North Atlantic. 9 air patrols and 3 escorts. I want no part of that. So we'll just avoid that. So now we go to the attack and anti-sub warfare phase. Okay, so let's start here. So we're gonna roll. We'll roll for our aggressive U-boat first. He gets a +2. He rolls a 5, so that becomes a 7. And 7C. C equals 1 convoy marker if present, eliminated, and 50,000 extra convoy tonnage credited, 8 ships, even if this takes tonnage over the normal limit for the turn. Only 1 E result. Okay, so I guess we remove this convoy marker. So that's good. So we move the convoy marker and we get 50,000 extra. So that's 125,000 and 8 ships on top of the 12. So that's 20 ships and 125,000 for the Eastern Seaboard. And I just realized I didn't put a U-boat in the North Atlantic, so I'm just going to toss this because I'm not going to use it. Yeah. All right. So now we're going to do our normal here. And 5. Okay, so there's a rule that the most you can sink in an area is 100,000. Now, because we rolled this, we got a $50,000 ton bonus. But we just rolled a 5, so 45 and 75, that's 120. So we're going to cap that at 100, and I'm going to put 150 for this area. So 150 is about 25 ships. So that's what I'm going to put for this area, is 150 and 25. And then we'll roll. Let's roll for the patrol while we're here. This guy's not even going to get to attack. The patrol rolls a 2, and a 2 is nothing. So we're done with the Eastern Seaboard. Now we'll move to the Mid-Atlantic. We have an aggressive. Gets a 5 plus 2 is again a 7. So I think this, yeah, it says only 1 result may occur per turn. Others are ignored. So we'll just take the 75,012 ships. Then we'll roll for this one. Gets a 4. And a 4 is, it has an asterisk. If it's in an, that's not the aggressive one. So 30 plus 75, it's going to cap at 100, and we're going to have 16 ships. So 116 for the Mid-Atlantic. And now we'll roll for the escort. He gets a 1, which is nothing. So these 2 are now done. Nothing here. Nothing here. Now we get the Bay of Biscay. So we'll do our aggressive one first. He gets a 1, so that's, we know that's nothing. Normal. Gets a 2. A 2 is 75,000, and we get a scatter. The Condor does not benefit from a scatter result. So he just gets 7,500. So we're not really doing much here in the Bay of Biscay, despite there being no opposition and a 1. And now we only have the Iceland Condor to worry about. And we don't have to roll for these guys because you can't attack the Condor. And they rolled a 6. Minus 2 is a 4. And a 4 is 30,000 and 5 ships. So our total for September, 287,500 tons and 46 ships. Now we have to roll for our Allied Technic, not roll, draw a card. And again, it's blank. We are lucky thus far. And now we'll do U-boat production, and we get 1. Plus 1 for donuts gives us 2. So I'm going to drop 2 U-boats in here. And now we go to the ace roll. And that's a 2. Plus 2 again is only a 4, so that's going to be no effect. Now our bonus convoy table. A 3 is nothing. So that is, as they say, that. And that is the end of the second turn. And we'll do cleanup, and I'll pause and do cleanup. And then we'll pick it up in turn number 3, which will be October of 1942. Okay, so every other turn we need to shuffle our discards back in. This ensures that you're not going to go through every single card in a game and keeps things, fresh, etc., etc. So I'm going to do that now. I will shuffle these suckers back in here. Okay, we're going to do one more turn, and then I am going to kind of just give you my thoughts on the game and, pseudo review type of thing, and then we'll wrap this up. Okay, so we go to the strategic phase. So we have to make our call on what we're going to do. And this time, I think we'll put donuts in the sub pen. So I'm going to put that there temporarily, and then once the U-boats get deployed, I'll put them on there so it's a little bit more clear. Now we'll pull our event, add 1 boat or add 1 Condor, U-boat rather. I'll take a U-boat. The Condors can't be shot down, but I don't know how useful they are in general. Yeah, we'll just go with the U-boat. So I now have 10 U-boats, which is nice. All right, allotment and placement phase. Okay, so let's draw for our Allied escorts. So we get 1 in Bay of Biscay, 1 in Iceland, 1 in Mid-Atlantic, 2 in the North Atlantic. That's good. And 3 in Newfoundland. That's not so bad. This is actually a pretty decent one for us. Okay. Now we'll do the patrols. 10 patrols in the North Atlantic. Good Lord. All right. Let's see. We get 1 in Eastern Seaboard, 1 in Mid-Atlantic, 3 in Iceland, 10 in the North Atlantic, and 4 in Newfoundland. All right. Now we dispatch our U-boats. This is a lot. This is a lot. All right. So let's see. Well, we're definitely going to put 1 here. In fact, I'm going to put 2 there. I'm going to put 2 in the Eastern Seaboard. I'm going to put 2 in Mid-Atlantic. I'm going to put 2 here in North Atlantic. In fact, you know what? I'm going to put 4 in the North Atlantic. We're going to go all out here. Actually, that doesn't go there. That goes here. That goes there. I have 1 boat left. Let's put it in the Bay of Biscay. He's here in the sub-pens. All right, so now we go to our attack and anti-submarine warfare phase. All right, so let's start here in the Eastern Seaboard. So we have an aggressive and a normal. We'll roll. Now that's a 5. plus 2 is a 7, so we know that that's going to be the 75 plus 50 for 125. But before we do that, let's do our normal here as well. And that's a 3, and a 3 is 15. So it's 90 plus 50, we get 140. And let's roll our patrol. And that's a 6, so that's going to be a hit. No, wrong side, Joe. 6, 3. U-boat in the aggressive square is sunk. So we're going to lose this guy. So we do get 140,000 sunk. Those are done. So you know what I'm going to do, just so help me keep track of what's done? I'm just going to move them off after I use them up. So we'll do the Mid-Atlantic now. So we have one in the aggressive box. He gets a 6. So 6 plus 2 is 8, and an 8 is 90,000, 15 ships. The normal gets a 4. 4, and then you get an asterisk, but to scatter. But we don't have anybody in the shadow, so it doesn't matter. So the 4 gives us 30. 30 plus 90 is 120, but we're capped at 100. So we're going to put 100,000 for here. And then we're going to roll for our 2 enemies. A 3 is nothing for the escort. And a 6 is, again, a hit for the patrol. And a 3, again, is going to be the aggressive U-boat gets sunk. So we've now lost 2 U-boats. Okay, we'll move this off. Move these off. I'm just doing it as part of this as opposed to having a separate cleanup. This we know doesn't do anything, so I'm just going to pull these guys off. Now we'll go to the African coast. We have 2 attacks to roll here. A 5. A 5 is 45,000 for our... Oh, wait, that's a 7. Sorry, 75. They don't have a convoy. 75 plus the 50 is 125. Let's see what this ends up being. It's a 2. So it's 82.5 plus 50 is 132.5 for that area. Now we'll do the Bay of Biscay. So now if this U-boat actually gets a scatter, then that actually it doesn't benefit the Condor. I never put any subs in the shadow. I mean, I do, but I haven't done it in this game. So they get a 4, and a 4 asterisk scatter if attacking is in the aggressive square. So we do have that, but again, it's not going to do us any good. We get 30,000 and 5 ships from our U-boat. The Condor gets a 1, which is nothing. So we have 30,000 and 5 ships from the Bay of Biscay, which is pretty much a waste. Let's save the big show for last and do Iceland first. So we have the Condor. He's going to get a -2. He rolls a 1. I seem to like rolling 1s for Condors, so that's going to be a big old fat nothing. Escort goes away. Patrol goes away. And now a really big show here. All right, so let's start here with our U-boat 7. Roll 1. Okay, gee, thanks. Thanks, guy. All right. Now we got normal. He rolls a 6. So 6 asterisk again, but that's the attacking German is in the aggressive square. This is the normal one, so it's not. So the 6 gives us 60,000 and 10 ships. Now we'll do the Skulker here. He gets a 3, but -2 is a 1, so nothing. So 60,000, 10 ships. And now we roll their attacks. So this is going to take a while. They've got a lot. So 2 gets a 5 and a 4. 5 and a 4 are both misses. Okay, so that takes care of the escort. Now we got our patrols. So we'll do 2, 6, and 4. We know the 4 is a miss. The 6, however, is a hit. And a 3 is aggressive square sunk. That's our 3rd loss. That's 2 of these 5. So here, let's do this to make it easy to track, right? 2 and a 5. The 5 is a miss. The 2 is a miss. So that's good. They're down to 1. Now we'll roll 1. Get a 2, another miss. Now we got these 5 here. 6 and 5. The 5 is a miss, but the 6 is a hit. Rolled a 4, and a 4 is U-boat in aggressive or normal square is sunk. So that would take care of that guy. So they're down to 3 now. Two ones. So he's down to 1. Last one. It's a 5. That is a miss. So we lost 2 boats there. So we lost a total of 4 U-boats that turn. We started with 10. Then we go to our Allied Technological Advantage phase. So we draw a card, and we get an Anti-Submarine Warfare Plus. So if Donuts is in the sub-pens box during the ATA draw, an Ultra Plus, Huff Duff Plus, ASW Plus, or Radar Plus is drawn, the result is considered no effect. Talk about luck. Putting Donuts in the sub-pen saved me from having the technological advantage go up. So that was awesome. Way to go, Admiral Donuts. All right. U-boat production phase. We get 1. And only 1, because since Donuts saved us here, he can't be in 2 places at the same time. But we do get 1 U-boat. So we'll put that guy back in there. Moves us back to 7 boats. And now we go to the ace check. So I need to tally up how much tonnage I killed. It's going to be 462,500. That's a pretty good month. And I just realized I don't think I did the North Atlantic correctly, tonnage-wise, because these two have bigger tonnage numbers, and I don't remember what I rolled, and I'm not going to worry about it. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's almost impossible to get to 600,000 in a month. You have to be real aggressive here, which we saw. If you do it early on, you can get away with it a little bit, but you're going to get decimated here because this area always gets a lot of protection, which is appropriate. This is the key area for both sides because this is where the primary convoy activity is going because the British Isles are right here. As you can see here, as I mentioned, these two, the tonnages are bigger on this side. And when I rolled and looked, I looked on this side, which covers everything but this guy and this guy. Because again, this is your primary convoy path, I guess, essentially, as opposed to coming in the... I mean, you do have stuff coming out of the United States, obviously, that's going like this way. But these are the two most fruitful, I guess, from the German standpoint. So anyway, we have over 400,000, so we're going to get a +4, which is the most we can get, +4 on our die roll. And we rolled a 6, so that becomes an ace. So we take one of our subs, and we replace him with an ace. And an ace gets a +1 on his die roll attacks. So... and Donuts will be going back to the HQ this turn. Now, I said I wasn't going to play the 4th turn on camera, and I'm not, because I don't want this to become like an hour-long video. So the plan here is to kind of just talk about the game itself in general, and how it works and what I think of it and all that stuff. So first of all, let's talk about the components. The components are real nice. I kind of touched on this at the beginning. We got the nice big 1-inch counters. They're very well done. They're nice. They punch out so easily that they were actually all punched out, even though the game was in shrink when I opened it. All the counters were actually out of the frame already, which was weird. I don't know if it got shook real hard or something, but the game was in shrink wrap, but all the counters were punched. It's very, very... I've never seen that before. But, so anyway, the counters are very nice. I mean, yeah, they've got little nibs on them. Maybe if you want to get real picky, there are little nibs here on the... Come on, why is it not focusing? There we go. Little nibs right there. It's a little hard to see maybe, but you can kind of see it right there. So you do have little nibs that you might have to deal with on some of the counters. But the counters are very nice. The board is very nice. It lays flat pretty nicely right out of the box. I didn't have to do a whole lot of gentle bending or anything to get it flat. It's pretty flat right out of the go here. Now the thing is, of course, this game is no longer going to be printed or sold because Canvas Temple is no longer in operation. So you would be buying this game on the secondary market. And so therefore this may not be all that interesting to you, but this is a component-wise real solid game. Rules-wise, there's the rules are real easy to understand and real simple. The one thing it doesn't talk about is the whole cleanup thing. So you have to look on like Board Game Geek to get a clarification of the fact that at the end of your turn, everything comes off the board, both the Allied stuff and the German stuff, everything off the board at the end of each turn. That is not mentioned in here. That is not mentioned in the rule book. The other thing is on the sequence of play. Between 6 and 7, which is actually number 11 and 13 in the rule book, right? Here's the rule book. Number 11, U-boat production phase. Number 12, ace determination phase. Okay, where is it? It's missing. And there's convoy bonus is 13, which is number 7 on here. So that's a little off-putting, I guess, I would say, because it's not a big deal as long as you can remember that you're supposed to check for aces between your U-boat and convoy phases. And I actually didn't even do the convoy bonus phase. I just realized that. So we would roll here and get a 4. And a 4 says PC. Possible convoy marker placement. So it says C below, but look, it's all white. So you have to kind of look over here. So it does say somewhere in here. PC result, the German must roll another die. Since there are 2 U-boats currently in the North Atlantic, on a roll 1 of 2, there will be no effect. I only had 1 in there. So if we roll... Okay, so they do get a convoy then, right? So then you would just stick a convoy in here. Yeah, so they do get a convoy in there, which is not great, but it is what it is, right? So you did have a chance. I had 3 originally, but we lost 2. So at the time of the check, there was only 1. And that's the, later on when you're doing other things, obviously attacking and everything, you have to have, because the order of operations, once the escorts and patrols start attacking before the U-boat, your U-boat gets killed before it can sink tonnage. That's the whole thing with the orders, right? So you go from order A to order B, and then the Allies, the escorts go first in order B. And then order C, the escorts and the patrols both go first. And that's when you find it really difficult to sink anything because your guys are getting blitzed out of there before they can do any damage. So that reflects the technological advantages that the Allies ended up employing as the war dragged on, and the fact that the U-boat campaign basically was very much a losing situation for the Germans after, 1943. Which is reflected in The Hunted, if you've ever played any of the Gregory Smith submarine games, The Hunters and The Hunted. The Hunters covers kind of the heyday of the U-boat campaign, the early war, before technology caught up to the extent that the Germans were fighting at a disadvantage, essentially. The Hunted is when it's, that's the late war era where things were really difficult, and they were basically getting smoked on a regular basis. Anyway, back to the game. So there's, like I said, a couple issues with the rules. Now, in terms of gameplay, it's a very straightforward and relatively simple game. Some people will probably feel like there's not a lot of decision-making space, and there kind of isn't, because you have things that are fairly obvious to do. But you do have to weigh the way you manage this North Atlantic area. That's the key thing. If you manage the North Atlantic area correctly, then the game can be your heyday, so to speak, gets extended a little bit. The longer you keep this from going up, the better off you are. That isn't necessarily related to this. It really isn't. It's more related to where Donuts is and basically the cards you're drawing. So there is that luck element, right? Anytime you're playing a solitaire game, and I've noticed this, obviously most people have, there is always things that are basically out of your control. You don't have player agency. Okay, that's part and parcel of a solitaire system, is that something has to manage the other side. The game, you're playing the game system. You're not playing another human opponent. Like, human opponents will make mistakes. They'll also do things that are extremely clever and put you in a bind in a different way. But it's a completely different scenario, essentially, right? I mean, if you're playing somebody else face to face, there's, depending on skill level and knowledge and familiarity with the game system and everything, there's a lot of variables. But in terms of playing a game system, there's always going to be a lot of things that are out of the player's hands. And some people might feel like things are more on rails. This game's not really on rails at all, except that that as time goes on, this is going to creep up. These are going to creep up, and you're going to be in a tough situation. You have to get lucky with the die rolls on attacks. Again, that these two areas will have higher tonnage, but this area in particular, and this one to a lesser extent, are always going to have higher convoy numbers. I mean, if you look, right, 2 in North Atlantic, 7 patrol. Then we pull another one. 3 in North Atlantic, 7 patrol. And Newfoundland's not far behind. I mean, we do have 7 in Iceland here, but that's patrols. 2, 3, 2, 4. Just looking at other cards here, 2, 7, 2, 5. You see how it's going. These are high risk, high reward areas. So if you feel like the dice might be going your way, you can go risky in here and hope that you don't get wiped out by the escorts and the patrols. And again, early war, before this creeps up to the point where you're not going first. When you're going first, make heyday in these two. Make hay here in these two as much as you can. You will lose boats, but you will rack up good tonnage. And the cap on these two is also higher than the 100,000 that you get in the other areas. So that's probably about all I have to say about the gameplay. It's not perfect, but the game is extremely challenging. It's hard to win. There is that combination, and I still feel like this is true in a lot of solitaire games. It's a combination of the choices you make and then the cards and the dice. And the cards and the dice, if you're playing any game that has cards and any game that has dice, there's always that element of luck in it. Because the dice sometimes will roll your way, sometimes they won't. You might pull great cards one game and terrible cards another game. That's just how it is. So this has that in it. And if you can live with that, then I think this is a fun game that you can play. You can play this whole game. Once you got it down, you can play the whole game in an hour. It's 10 turns. That's 6 minutes a turn. You can totally do that. You can play it in less than an hour probably if you're good enough. Some people might not like the whole adding up the tonnage thing, but that's just the metric of how you play the game and where you are in the game. And it's a measuring stick of how well you're doing. That's really what it is. So, that is going to do it. So hopefully you have an understanding of the game. If you are able to find it, I know it's out there and it's available in some places to purchase still. Obviously you can't buy it from Canvas Temple anymore, but there are places you can get the game. I think it's a worthwhile game. I enjoy it. I do like solitaire games, as you probably know if you watch my channel regularly. I play a lot of solitaire games because they're, they don't require an opponent, which is kind of a big thing for a lot of people, including me, is finding someone to play with. But this is a good one. I will give it a recommendation. The only real negative I feel like is the whole kind of leaving the ace thing off of here and no mention of cleanup. Other than that, I think everything works really well. And, kudos to Gary Graber on a good design that, John Compton and Canvas Temple gave a nice polish with the components. So that's really nice. Thank you for watching. As always, I appreciate it. Please consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing if you would. That would be most appreciated. But either way, I just hope you got something out of the video. So my name's Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. And until next time, happy gaming.